Om Tat Sat.
Swamiji, 1 minute. It's just getting ready. Yes, Swamiji.
Hari Om Tat Sat. Invoking Ganapati to remove obstacles, the Guru to lead us into the truth, and Saraswati on the front to we say what is asked, all of us together. Yeah, go ahead. Shivani, you can go ahead.
Can everyone hear this?
I can hear you. It is Vishwaya. Vishwaya can hear you. Put on the Ganapati invocation. Namo Bhagavate Purusha Vibhutipataye Namah. Namo Bhagavate Purusha Vibhutipataye. Namo Bhagavate Purushaya Vibhutipataye.
Hari Om Tat Sat, Swamiji.
Hari Om Tat Sat. If it's difficult to get Shivani, we'll proceed without it. Don't worry about it.
Which one, Swamiji?
Ganapati thing.
Oh, I played it. Wasn't it visible?
No.
It was, Swamiji.
It was okay. So if it was for you, that's okay. To me, it wasn't.
Oh, sorry about that.
Let me know when that ends.
Yeah, it's done.
It's done, Swamiji.
I can start?
Yes.
Okay. So, yesterday we ended at that place where Krishna listens to all the yearning that they have and the agitation and the distress, and they match him dharma for dharma about why they should not be here in the presence of Sri Krishna in the middle of the night while he had a valid. So what we have to understand from this is that when the divine calls, you have to trust it fully and go ahead fearlessly, because the will divine only will take place. So when he had to go back, they said, but give us back our minds. And he said, I cannot give you back your mind because I don't know where it is. They say it is dissolved in you. You're the chitta chor, the thief of the mind. But when the mind dissolves into the Paramatma, there is no coming back for the Atma. It does not need to take another body. Remember that. Doesn't mean that it will not come back. It does not need to come back for itself, but it might come back as a servant of the divine. to do his work. So then he says, I know your love, but go back. Again, he says, after all that, and the gopis say that our prana may go, but we won't be able to move by ourselves. And then Krishna is so completely won over to some extent by the fact that he knows that they are really steadfast and it's not a passing gain. And their souls have talked to him in a very convincing manner. So he asks them, finally, he says, now what actually do you want? Because one has to know the goal for which they've come to God. Is it for power? Is it for money? Is it for charisma? What do we go to God for at all? We say words like we want to merge in the divine, we want liberation, we want moksha, but do we know what it is that we are asking for? When we are afraid to die, but in death, the elemental body is given up. But when you're talking of moksha, the same elemental body is given up while the Atma continues living on. But for one, we are running after it, and for the other, we are afraid to go near it. So we have to be very clear within us at the Sukshma Sharira level, what is it we want? And so the gopis said, we want the Adaramrita Dhanam. Dhanam means it's like we are begging for Bhiksha. Give us the Adaramrita Dhanam. Now, Adaramrita Dhanam, a lot of people will translate it as a kiss because it means the sweetness of the lips. Adara means it's the lips. So you'll hear in the song, Adaram, Maduram, Vadanam, Maduram. That is, Krishna's lips are beautiful in one sense. In the much deeper sense, what they mean is a non-material immortality. We don't want our body to remain young. We don't want our body to necessarily hang around without decay, because you can do it with Ayurvedic measures. You can go to a beauty parlor, look beautiful. You can go to a gym and make your body fit. There are so many ways of taking care of your body, but they say that is not what we are looking at. All that is transient. Someday or the other, it will have to go. And the same thing with our minds. The minds also will decay, and someday it will either completely close down or it will get caught up in memories of the past and then hang on to some old desire that we had. What we want is the non-material. Dhara means, Dharitri is the name for the earth. Dhara means that which nourishes and sustains us. So Adara means that which is not material. So we don't want the earthly, talking about those things that are transient and go away. We don't want that. Amritam means death. Amritam means that which is deathless. We want the deathless spiritual state, which automatically means then I become a servant of the divine and I'm with the divine for the sake of the total consciousness. Now, you might call this as a mother, you might call it as a father, as a lover, as a child. It doesn't matter what you do. That is the form which we use along the way so that we can find the formless in the form and give up the form just as we will give up our own form someday in death. That's the elemental body part of it. So Adaramrita Dhanam means the non-material, the spiritual immortality. We want that, they say. And then they say, and we ache for an embrace from you. Now, when they say an embrace, the word they use is, when they say embrace, they mean alingana samadhi. Alingana means embrace. So people would call two lovers embracing as alingana, they say. Linga means an object, a hidden object or a hidden perceived something which tells you that there is divinity there, but it is still a form. So what we are talking about is a formless embrace, which means the Atma embraces the Paramatma. What is the Atma? It is a portion of the Paramatma. It is a fraction of the supreme soul. And so when they say that they are talking of a state of consciousness where the soul merges with the Paramatma or the supreme soul. Now, I just thought yesterday that maybe I'll make a few what do they call it? Definitions a little clearer. First, when you go to Patanjali Sutras, he talks about Abhyasa and Vairagya. So just let's understand very quickly and briefly what is Abhyasa and then what is Vairagya. Abhyasa is effort, yatna, effort, stitau, established firmly until it becomes part of your own self. You don't oscillate there. Nairantarya, that is without interruption, maybe for lifetimes, the search. Dirgha Kala, for a long, long time, continue for a long time. Satkara, with reverence, love, and faith. You can't say it's boring. You can't say I'm impatient. You can't lose your heart. No feeling of compulsion because neither your guru nor God will compel you. You have the perfect freedom. So it depends on you. The earnestness. And all that put together forms abhyasa. And it's the same abhyasa and vairagya, kaunteya, Krishna says also in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, what is vairagya? Vairagya is drishta, anything that you have seen or experienced. Anushravika, heard of or read about. I might read about a wonderful place like the United States, and that will be a desire to go there because I haven't experienced it. So they are saying anything you have experienced, anything you have heard of, anything you have read about with Krishna, free of thirst and craving, free of craving for any of these, whatever you have heard of, read about, seen, or experienced. That controlled awareness. You see, people go somewhere and then they look at somebody dressing in a particular way, and then they say, "Hey, I must get that dress." And it's the thing today. It's mod, and so things you get tempted. So they're saying, then what happens? The fashion changes, and you change with the fashion, and before you know what has happened, you are a slave to the fashion and not to yourself also. So he's saying that controlled awareness, which gives you a choicelessness. That is, you tell yourself somebody is taking a drug, say coke, and they're having a high at a party or anywhere else. Your friend says, when I'm tired, I take this and then I'm feeling fit. Now you have to have the viveka, the discrimination to know that there are many people getting into the state and not being able to come out and damaging and destroying their lives. So I don't have to experience everything in the world. I experience the things that I have chosen to experience, um, which facilitate me on my journey. If I want to go to Delhi and I'm going to be driving there, I take a road map from Bangalore to Delhi. I don't take a road map to Rameshwaram or to Chicago. So, what do you want for your journey? So, first you have to know what you want. Then you have to build up a sense of seeing what is transient by experience, because you know that the transient things have not given you pleasure till now. Now, when you know that, you don't go to another transient thing thinking that maybe this will be different. Nothing will be different. Something is transient, something is permanent. The transient will never be permanent. And you can get disappointed on the way and get back to square one. So they're saying, don't get into that mess. Then this choiceness that comes with controlled awareness of not craving for the things that you have heard of, read of, seen, or experienced, all of which you know have only been temporary. This is called vairagya, that lack of craving, vitaraga vairagya. Now, this is vairagya of a lower nature. Vairagya has three stages. First one is struggling without any success because your sankalpa is not really firm. Then you have partial success. Some of the times you are able to follow it, some of the times you are not able to follow it. Then the elimination of craving and repulsion. Take everything as it comes. And the highest vairagya is true knowledge of consciousness. In doing this abhyasa and vairagya again and again and again, you get to understanding that these transient things are part of your mind, not part of the consciousness. So the highest vairagya is a true knowledge of that supreme consciousness, and as a consequence, a freedom from the desire for the gunas. Because so long as you're tied to the gunas, the tamas, rajas, and sattva will work there continuously. That is part of the ongoing material way of living. You cannot avoid it. And you cannot just get at the sattvic situation, put it in a cupboard, and lock the cupboard. It doesn't happen that way. We are living in the world through prana. Prana is like a stream, it's a fluid state. And the Prakriti that carries the prana with her, the creation is an ongoing fluid process. Minute to minute, things change. Moment to moment, things change. So let us have that discrimination, which lets us know that even Rajas, Tamas, Sattva will constantly keep changing. So the minute you feel sattvic, don't sit back and say, now I've reached. That's what they're talking about. So in meditation, they say it's the inner life of inhibition, suppressions, complexes, biases that you have pushed down and which you think is not part of who you are, which will suddenly come up. And for the lower, and they will, coming from inside, especially in meditation, they will have a role to play in your external life also. Now, the lower form of vairagya is the discrimination and a control of this through satsang and higher consciousness. That is, you company should be with sadhus or going to an authentic ashram or authentic guru or working among people who have similar goals like you and who are sattvic and who live a simple life with high thinking. That will help in the lower. But then as you go along, you'll realize that the subtle desire still persists. When it is the para vairagya, the highest is, even the deep-rooted desire has to be given up. Like in the Kathopanishad, Nachiketas gives up the eventual fear of death, abhinivesha, which is part of the vasana of the survival of a species, that we don't want to be exterminated. So this vairagya and abhyasa of what? You have 8 limbs of yoga, not just asana. You have the yama and their niyamas. I'm not going into any of these. Asana, pranayama. This is the bahiranga. Then you have the pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So what is it come when you finish with the Samadhi Pada and you go to Sadhana and you go to Vibhuti Pada, then only they tell you what is Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. And in that, what do they say? Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi are inner processes. And when you go into the various processes that make up different levels of Samadhi, then the when you go into the deeper processes of Samadhi, you will come to a particular point where you cannot go forward into Nirbija Samadhi, or a state where there is no seed to come back. It has to take you forward. A different sort of Purusha, they say, will come and take you. Your consciousness will be completely different. So what is Dharana? Desha Bandha Chittasya. Desha is to one place. Bandha is binding. Chittasya, the mind. So the mind will move, vikshepa, it will go from one place to the other. You, with your ekagrata, your one-pointed focus of what you want, you bind your mind to that one place of consciousness. So if you have a dream of going to Rishikesh, all your life you say, one day I'm going to Rishikesh, one day I'm going to Rishikesh. So Rishikesh becomes impressed in your mind in a particular place and it gets bound, it's established. This is dharana. Along the way, you will have intermittent breaks because in between you will say, you might feel instead of going to Rishikesh, let me go to Narmada banks or let me go to the Mississippi. So these breaks will come because this is the way the mind works. That's the nature of the mind. So you trust the mind and you go ahead with what you have decided is your goal. It's a beautiful thing. Then from dharana, you go to dhyana. What is dhyana or meditation? Tatra desha. That is the tatra. In that particular place, that one place where you have bound your mind and the mind is going to and fro, pratyaya. Pratyaya is the content of that consciousness. Ekatanata, continuity. So there is no breaks now. The same dharana now continues without an intermittent way of being aware of something and holding on to it is dharana. When the same dharana becomes an established and constant um, effort, awareness of your consciousness, which is continuous, this is called dhyana or meditation. So meditation need not always be sitting. I've done my meditation for half an hour and then I'm fine and the day has been beautiful. That's true. To some extent, you do relax, but that is not dhyana. Dhyana is when you're walking, you have that same Rishikesh in your mind. When you're eating, Rishikesh is in your mind. When you're having a bath, you say, I'm having a bath in the Ganga in the Rishikesh. So it's a constant, continuous, non-breaking, steady awareness of a specific object, whatever that object is. That is called dhyana. And then you go to samadhi, and in samadhi, dhyana becomes samadhi. You don't make samadhi happen to you. When supposing I'm thinking of Rishikesh and I have a particular form in my mind, then that form alone comes up where I'm not even conscious that I exist. It's only Rishikesh there. But it is in that sense that they are talking about not my will by thine. Because by then your mindness is becoming weak and moving out altogether. And when the mindness, I and mine go, the that or thine or the divine or whatever you're meditating on, it doesn't matter what you meditate on. When you get that state of consciousness, then it is called samadhi. Now, when you have these things happening, trayam ekatra, the three together, you say you are there with dharana intermittently, you remember, then it moves into dhyana, it becomes more and more a part of yourself, and then that thing becomes important and you are not important anymore. These three together are called samyama. And samyama gives powers. And the mastery of samyama gives you what is called prajna alok. Prajna is consciousness, alok is illumination. It's a light of a higher consciousness that dawns. So these are states that actually happen and not concepts. So you have to remember that when you're going to the Gopika looking for Krishna, because here they are saying, give us the Adaramrita Dhanam, give us the non-material spiritual immortality. That is what Adaramrita Dhanam means. And that only the divine can give you, because you don't have it. But because you are a part of divinity, you recognize that, and it's easier to melt into the divinity at that point. But you're a stream melting into an ocean. So when you have, the ocean is more powerful than the stream. If the ocean is pushing the stream away, it can't join it. So they say the grace of the divine or the grace of the guru is the only thing that will help you move in and become part of that which you have loved for lifetimes, consciously, unconsciously, through other objects, and finally reached. So this is what they say. And Krishna says, oh, so that's what you want, is it? He says, even that it's up to me to give or not, because I am the person who can give it to you, the grace. I'm the ocean. What will you do if I don't give it to you? And the Gopikas tell him, don't frighten us. It won't help. Because the last upayam means the last, the last, what would you call it? The capacity to do something. The last bit is in our hands. Did you think that all this is for ourselves? They're asking him. All this is because we love you, and this is your glory. For beings who come later, will they not be demoralized when people say, look how the Gopikas suffered and struggled and gave up everything and went to God, and he dismissed them. So it is your glory that will go away, and people in the future will not strive for you. As for us, we can burn ourselves in the Viraha Agni, in the fire of separation that is burning us. We can burn ourselves in it. But in the last days of our life, you said, she talks to Krishna himself, the Shastra says, what is remembered in the last minute is what we will attain. So we will remember you in the last minute, and we will attain you only anyway. So we have no problem with that. But what will the world say? That the gopis had ekagrata and they left their body with agony for Krishna, who was so cruel. You are the Sarvavyapi, you are in everyone. Where can you go without us? So Krishna does Jaya Ghosham to them. He says, I'm defeated now. So now what are we talking about? We are talking about moving into Nirbija Samadhi. So all this is a process and an upasana that the Gopikas are going through, which all of us will need to face at some time or the other. And when you say I've done the mantra japa, I've done it 1 lakh times, 2 lakh times, a million times, and why nothing is happening? Nothing is happening because God is protecting you from psychic things happening for you, including the siddhi, so that he can, even though you're in difficulty, is watching out like a mother to take you to himself eventually. So, and that is why people will do sadhana over lifetimes. So, you nirbija samadhi. What is the bija? Bija is something that has a quality to become many. Even samskara in the form of consciousness you can get different consciousness. Now, a different consciousness, totally different consciousness is needed, the cosmic consciousness, and that is where the Ritambara Prajna comes about, the consciousness of the law that makes everything move in its place the way it is meant to be. So you cannot change that on your own because it's a different thing altogether. So then people say, how does one who finishes everything and goes into this stage, Jivan Mukti, they say, you are liberated from the material transient world while alive. But then they do walk around among other people and they still interact with people. We have seen many saints like that in the books, in our real lives too. How do they come back? They say, when you say there's no coming back, in what form do they come back? And so it is said they come back like a boat. They come like a boat to take other people across at the divine command, not because they feel sorry, because there is no mind anymore for them. They come because they are ordained by the divine. He says, now you are me, you are part of me, you are my employee, you are my dasa. You go and like a boat help other people to cross. So that is what they do. And this is what Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. If you don't fight, he says, perfectly okay, but I will anyway, through somebody or the other, continue this war until all negative elements are discarded and only the positive remains. That is my order, and I will see it happening. If you want to, you be my instrument. If you don't want to, that's perfectly okay. Somebody else will do it. So he says, Nimitta matram bhava savya sachin. Just be an instrument. You don't have to even think, is it right, is it wrong, when the divine tells you. So this is what they are talking about, that even Shuka Brahma, Rishi, the sorry, that is my phone. Let's put it down. The Shuka Brahma Rishi, who was an Advaitin at birth itself, an Advaita expert, he himself says that for this Alingana Samadhi, the what you can use, anything can be used. You can use dance, you can use music, you can use poetry. Everything is used as an upaya, as a way of reaching there, as a boat. And devas, and when these people have these experiences, it's a sukshma sharira experiencing it. It is not the physical body that is going and hugging Krishna. You don't even need to touch the form. So now at one point they say, we hear your anklets as you walk. What does that mean? It means that the entire manifestation is Nada Yoga. That is what they are saying when they are telling Krishna that. Now, Brahma asks, Brahma is the creative force of the universe. He is asking, are Krishna and the gopis really without any desire, kama? Because these people have said, give us Adaramrita Dhanam and things. Even if there is no desire, but sometimes mistakes can occur because these things are so tempting. You might, for lifetime, you might be a brahmachari, and one point you can slip. And we see this happening in the Puranas itself. The Puranas are talking, are stories to help us understand the Vedic Shastra, the supreme Shastra, which is there in all religions, if you go into them deeply. So in fact, you have a story of Miriam, Mary Magdalene, and she asks Jesus, he says, Jesus, Yeshu, will you come and have dinner with me tonight? And Yeshu says, not tonight, Miriam, this is not the time. So she says, why? Because he goes everywhere else. So he says, because most people love you for their satisfaction. I love you for who you are. And when you recognize us, that day we will dine together. So there is a time to wait when we have to shed all the desire. Only then you can reach the Paramatma. And all that we are doing is to increase these stories, to increase that sense of going towards a source that is permanently our own source. So what happens to Dharma? Brahma asked. Because the Krishna Avataram was to teach the Dharma and stabilize Dharma. He says that. He says, I come to Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata. I'm coming here to establish Dharma. So what's all this game playing that is happening? So Krishna says to him, Brahma, you are looking at it with a wrong perception. Why? Because Brahma is Rajoguna. He is the creative force. So the Rajoguna has ambition, enthusiasm, interest about, excitement about getting the creation going. And the perception itself shows that there is an error even in the perception of Brahma. So he says, this is not Dharma that you are seeing. This is the fruit of Dharma. So this 10th skanda and the Gopikas merging with Krishna, this whole game is actually a process of sadhana turning to upasana and upasana leading the soul to the supreme soul, which is the fruit of all that they have gone through earlier. Then Brahma says to him, but Krishna, though you have the fruit, you are still sticking to the actions. Why do you need to do it? So Krishna then turns all the Gopikas into Krishna for Brahma to look at. And after a while, he lets Brahma see himself, Krishna, look like a gopi also. So he's showing Brahma that through action, that everything is the same. That at that level, Brahma understands that when at the Advaita level also, each guna is more powerful. He was a cosmic Rajas. That is why you see somebody like Mahabali, who was such a great bhakta, but he had the Rakshasa samskara inside. It made him feel that I am the one giving. So he tells the Supreme Vamana, he said, I will give you three paces of, I will give you three kingdoms, three lokas. Why are you asking for three bits of land? And it was the compassion of the divine at that point to say this man has struggled so much with doing so many good deeds, even though he had this strong rajasic tendency and with the attachment to I and mine. But now let me, out of my compassion, because I love this devotee, let me take over. So when he places his feet on Mahabali Maharaja's head, meaning that he removes his ego by pressing him down. But he still has to live out his life in luxury because that is the punya he has gained by being generous. But Krishna Vamana says at that time, don't worry, I will be your security guard. No more negativities will come to you. I will walk around your kingdom protecting you from all negativity. So now you come to the gopis. If you understood this bit of it, and that is what we have to understand. One of the gopis, Gopika Ganam, she says, keep your hand on my head. What does that mean? It means it is not that physically somebody comes and gives the hand. It's a prayer for Ishvara Kripa to get over the last desire. The last desire is your own upasana itself, your own consciousness you give up. There is no place for pride in front of the divine, which is what he showed with Mahabali. And Narada is sad because he says, if I were a woman, I could have had the Rasa Krida experience. His sad face caught Radha's eyes. Radha is the Ahlada Shakti. Radha and Durga are two Shaktis of powers of his own inherent potency. She learns of his yearning and she asks him to bathe in the Radha Kund, which is nearby. He does so and he becomes Naradi. He says, to get the divine, I can even wear a woman's dress. So the gopis renounce even their Stri Dharma, femininity. In the same way, Narada renounces masculinity. And what is Nada Trandati iti Naradaha? One who enjoys Nada, the original vibrationary beauty of the divine, that is when you're going towards the source, that is Narada. Narada thought he was male and he was a Bhagavatam expert. He was a guru for many people. There was one small bit of pride in him and that had to be renounced. So you can imagine how these things happen. We cannot say, oh, I'm very humble, I'm a guru's devotee and things like that, because that means you're being dishonest with yourself. We all have to continuously do nididhyasana, go inside again and again and again. Because he is the Antaryami, he is sitting inside and he knows exactly when you are right. Our first link with God is the name, Nama Swarupyam. And when we are doing all this, we are doing the Satkaryam, the good things for Chitta Shuddhi. Because you see in life, neither the king nor a beggar, neither a pandit nor a fool, nobody has peace. So Krishna says, Ashantasya Kuta Sukham. That is, when a person does not have peace, where is he comfortable? Shanti is that peace is attained only on merging with the divine. So you have the third or fourth discourse is about how the divine gives Shanti to the Gopikas, peace. Because they say even after darshan, you should not give up your upasana. God says there is no, if God were to tell you, no need to repeat my name or serve me, because you have reached me, then you say, Lord, I'll do everything except this, because this God that you think who is telling you, no need to say my name, is the projection of your own psychic self. It is not your spiritual identity. It is your own psychic self masquerading as the divine. And that is why Jesus will say, many will come, they will be wolves in sheep's clothing. Because that is how the deeper and deeper you go, there is more and more of the inner chitta that can be very deceptive, because it's trying to fight against being exterminated. And your consciousness and your faith has to be of such a caliber that no matter what happens, you will not let go of the feet of the divine. So the sadhaka should not think, now I'm a siddha, I don't need to do abhyasa. Because Krishna says, if I stop doing what I'm doing, everybody will imitate me. So even if I am the Supreme Soul, when I come as an incarnation, I do what everybody does. So Shukha Brahman tells Yudhishthira at the end, here Yudhishthira listens about Prahlada's story and how Narsimha comes and saves Prahlada and puts Prahlada on his lap. And he says, oh, I wish I could be on the lap of the Supreme. And Shukha Brahman says to him, I feel so sorry for you, Yudhishthira. Here you have the Supreme living in your palace, bowing to you every day because you are his elder brother and cousin. He is driving the chariot and allowing Arjuna to climb on his shoulders and get down. And you have his company all the time as Krishna, and you still haven't understood that this is the Supreme, he says. So the Supreme is not so difficult to achieve also, because you may not be in the final stages of merging, But when you see that the divine soul in you carries your divine beloved in its heart, and it is in the heart of everybody else as the Antaryami, then you know that the divine is already with you. It's only a question of continuing to stay and not getting distracted with other options that you think are more exciting. Then why should you work till the very end? Because the minute you drop abhyasa, Maya grabs you. Equanimity should come here also. So they say even a very powerful elephant needs an ankusha. An ankusha is a goad. It makes the elephant go. And as you will see, the Adi Shakti as Bhuvaneshwari is seen with a noose and a goad in her hand. The noose is that which attracts you and she draws you towards herself. And the goad is when she keeps pushing you, don't stop, go on, go on. That. Now, who is Bhuvaneshwari? Bhuvaneshwari is the Adi Shakti, just like Radha is, Durga is. And the Adi Shakti is the same as the Adi Shakta. It is Krishna in himself is the mother, and the mother in herself is Sri Krishna. There is no difference between both of them. There is a saying, Yoshitstu Lalita Devi Purusheshascha Raghavaha. The most beautiful woman in the world, in the universe, is Lalita, the mother. The most handsome, attractive man is Bhagava, that is Sri Rama, who is very good looking. Tayo Sammelana, the joining together of Lalita Devi and Raghava, the male and female beauty, is Krishna Lavanyam, the beauty of Krishna. So God is supposed to be omnipresent, not supposed to be, he is omnipresent. So where can he disappear? The gopis were crying for him. He didn't disappear. He never disappears. He's always with us. But our sense of individuality, which is a division, ahamkar, veils our eyes. Even cosmic ahamkar can veil our eyes, so we don't see him and we think that he has left us, he has rejected us. So the gopis then were searching everywhere, but they didn't search for him in their hearts. They were looking out everywhere, and then despair, love for him reached an unmatavastha. That is, no reason. You're like a mental patient, you're like a person who's lost his wits and you do things that is not socially understandable. It's like the story of 10 men that kept counting. Each one counted 9 and forgot the 10th himself until the stranger pointed out. Now, when you see the 10th, you see he is always there. That is seen when your ignorance is removed. So, Siddhi, Swamiji used to say, gives prasiddhi. This should not make us complacent. After getting God's grace, you should not give up the upasana, the thinking of the name of the divine and thinking of the divine, because if you do that, you will be destroyed. Now, what are the other things they ask for? They search for him everywhere. Outside, they see God separately, because therefore there is separation. Because you see, you are there and I'm here and I haven't reached you. So what you look at is what you will get. So they see him with separation, that is called viyoga. And because there is that bhavana of I. So they say when Krishna was carrying one of the gopikas, it turned out to be Radha, he carried her, and then she felt suddenly a bit of pride, thinking, I must be so special, he's carrying me and not everybody else. Now, this is you would wonder why somebody like Radha, who was his own inherent potency, has to get into the situation, because immediately he disappears and she is left sitting alone. Now, she, as the mother, takes on that role of doing that, because when the Gopikas come searching for Krishna, somebody has to tell them this is why it happened, so that they are alerted to their own inner. So the mother is also the Guru Rupini. She is the mother who comes and alerts you as a child, saying, look, I went through this difficulty, you don't go through this. So you can't tell your parents that you make the mistake, so why can't I make it? Because they are trying to save you, like your Guru is trying to save you from even his mistakes, because he has gone through it with a great struggle. He's making it easier for you. So that's that. And one Gopi says, they start identifying with the divine, and one Gopi says, I'm Krishna Sakhi. So what that means there is the aham, the I is forgotten. When you say, I am Krishna, Krishna is there in the heart, and she feels she's Krishna, and she is imitating Krishna, and in her face you'll see the radiance of Krishna comes. The God you meditate upon, you become an amsha or a fraction of that divinity. That does not make you the supreme soul. You are a fraction of that. Then one believes, becomes Kaliya, and one stands on her and dances. The understanding here is that she sees Krishna even in Kaliya. That is, she sees him also in the negativities of life. She is practicing for a cosmic sense of equanimity. Seeing Shuka, they say, the Apsaras lost their lust. Shuka walked Digambara because he was not body conscious. And when he was walking one day, the women were bathing, and they continued bathing. A little later, his father Vyasa comes that side, and they quickly cover themselves. So he feels very hurt. He asks them, when my son, who is young, walked around Digambara without any clothes on, you didn't even bother. And here am I, an old man who has given up lust ages ago. And when I'm coming, you're all covering yourselves. It's a reflection on me. And they tell him no, because he didn't even think of us as wearing clothes or not wearing clothes. It didn't make any difference to him, because he is actually that formless self. So these stories, they say he was a Brahmajnani. He saw the supreme in all of us. So karma was destroyed in them, desire. And when the desire is destroyed, that is why they say, remember, it all started with Cupid, that is Kamadeva, the god of desire, saying, let's have a competition. So this is how Krishna acted out for him. And then the Gopikas sing the Gopika Geetam, Jayati Tikam. I've sent you all the Shreya Gosal singing it. Now the Gopika Geetam, the Chandas, the meter is called Indira Chandas. Why is it Indira Chandas? Indira is Lakshmi, not Indra. Indira, Indu, the moon, is her brother. Indira is Lakshmi, and they become Lakshmis actually. They are transformed into Lakshmis, who is the consort of Krishna. And that is why it is sung in the Indira Chandas. And what they say, the Vrajabhumi is your physical body, with all its stones and pebbles and everything like that. Inside this Vrajabhumi of your elemental body and mind, the divine dwells. And how do they say? He's wearing fish earrings, that is the Swadhisthana chakra, which he has conquered. That is the he within you, the divine within you has conquered the craving for luxury. And the having done that, the jiva's duty, dharma, is to have sharanagati to God. That is taking the protection of refuge of him and him alone in life. And just as the Jivatma, the Atma of the living being, takes the refuge of God, the Paramatma also has a dharma. Paramatma's dharma is to protect one who has taken refuge in him. So, when one gopi tells him, "You are a butter thief, you are a chit chore," what does it mean? In ordinary life, it's a nice, sweet word to say, but what is happening, Krishna and the gopis? Krishna asked the gopi, "Then why do you call me if I'm a chore, if I'm a thief?" So that then she says, "So you can come and steal my mind. You become chitchor. You're not a one who is stealing the butter alone." So this is a hint of consciousness, even in the cosmic level, moving up and down and still not feeling that it's there. So Krishna says, "Do you know who I am?" He says. And this Gopika says, "Listen, Jnanis and Bhaktas know you. We are bankrupt because we've given up everything, including Jnana and Bhakti. We have nothing with us. When we are bankrupt, with what do we understand you?" And then they say, "All we know is you are the truth. Satyavratam, Satyaparam, Trisatyam, Satyasya Yonim, Nihitam Cha, Satyasya Satyam, the truth of the truth, Rutasya Trinetram, Satyatmakam Tvam Sharanam Prapanna." Wedded to the truth, you are the supreme truth, you are the origin of truth, you are the emblem of truth, you are established in truth, you are the truth of truths. Your eyes are truth dynamic, you are the soul of truth. We have arrived at your holy feet for refuge. In other words, you're saying we have come to the holy feet of the truth. The supreme that was there, is there, and will always be there. They said, "We have never had peace after you left us." And Buddha says there is no rest for the embodied soul. So they wept and they sobbed, utterly bankrupt. All dimensions of consciousness has been returned to him. He alone is the shore when the soul is utterly bankrupt. So seeing them sobbing, the Lord comes and accepts them. Because if you remember Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, there is a story in which at the end of it, he says, "See, people sob on the loss of a wife and a son. Does anyone shed one tear for the divine darshan?" He says, "I used to weep to Kali every day that if she didn't come even one day, I would weep and struggle. You don't know the agony and anguish I went through." So in the same way here, Krishna says, "I will never leave you. I have never left you. But your perception is so contaminated, and I'm working here to purify your perception. It's not that I have gone away. I'm just purifying you." So in the Gopika Geetam, you'll find the certain gopis are sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, and he is clearing it for them. The sattvic one praises the Lord. The tamasic one finds fault with him. Another tamasic calls him cruel. The sattvic one is grateful for what he did. Nirguni, the one who does not have sattva, rajas, or tamas, has gone inward. She sees the antaryami. She sees him inside and she says, "Oh my God, you were always here. I didn't notice." Ananya Rupa wants his um, grace. So she says, "Keep your feet on my head." The sattvic and the tamasic aspects, when it mingles, that person enjoys authority over him. Same time, praise that he will not leave her just because she's being mockingly tough. You know, some of the gopikas will tell him, "We'll give you butter if you dance for us, if you act like a monkey," and he will do everything that they want. So we know you're the Antaryami, the witness. Your hand gives Varaprasadam. Place it on our heads so it is destroyed and we don't have a rebirth. Then he says, wait for me. He's still saying that. He says, wait for me. There are a lot of bhaktas. I have to attend to all of them and then come to you. The Gopika says, we are yours, you are ours. There is no bhavana. It's a nitya kanta bhavana, a sense of belonging. And we have the first preference, they say. So who are the Vrajavasis now who have the first preference? Those who depend on Krishna to do, and it has nothing to do with a geographical Vraja. Those who depend on Krishna alone, the Supreme Soul alone, they are called Vrajavasis. There are yogis, jnanis, bhaktas, karma yogis, sadhakas who have other ashraya, other refuge. My ashram is my refuge. My physical form of the Guru is my refuge. My what do you call it? My penance is my refuge. Everything has to be given up. There is nothing. Only you are my refuge. So Sita says to Hanuman, I cannot come with you. Rama alone has to come and save me. I don't mind suffering any amount. So the Gopikas say, we don't know what is dhyana. All we know is we want Krishna. That's all. So those who do not allow ahankar to enter, nisadhana bhaktas, they are steady, they trust in the beloved, and they have an unshakable, unflinching knowing that he will not let me down. Sometimes when you do good deeds, sat karma, and you do sadhana, it gives us a bit of ahankara also. We feel that we are better than other people, or we are entitled to receive God. This person is called a nisadhana bhakta. In other words, this is where you say mantrahinam kriyahinam at the end of the puja. That's what they mean. Nothing is mine. I've given it to you. I realize even I don't have to give it to you. It is yours. Where's a question of my giving it? So that's what we mean when you say Naham Karta, Guru Karta Kevalam. We usually say it as a social phrase to say everything he does. But the fact is you have to live it. So the Gopikas, when he asks them, what do you want after my darshan? Then they say, hey, Kama Vinashaka, one who destroys desire. You alone can remove the desire at the root. Here the Kama refers to Icha Shakti, which belongs to the divine alone. His own inherent potency is the desire that comes in every soul. Only thing we don't realize what we are desiring and we go searching. And only he can do it. So they say, if your hand touches our head, then you will, we will be blessed by your removing the karma. Then another one says, put your foot on our hearts. When they say hearts, breasts, bosom, it all is the same. And he says, your heart has ahamkar poison. That will hurt my foot. Then they say to him, but you danced on the head of Kaliya snake, no? What about that? So, pranata dehinam apanashanam. So, Krishna says, prana, Dasharatha's prana, they say, if you leave us, we'll die. And he says, Dasharatha's prana left the body only when separated from Rama. Your love is not so pure because you still live though you're separated from me. That is what Rama asks Hanuman also when he comes back. You say Sita's going through all this. I cannot live even one kshana without her. How is it she says, tell him I've got 1 month more to live. How is she living if she doesn't feel like me? And Hanuman says, because she has Ramanama in her heart all the time. So, in the same way, and Jesus says that man does not live by bread alone, not by what you put inside, but by the prana, the Mahaprana, the word of God. In other words, the Omkar, Pranava Mantra, Pranava Shakti, Prana Shakti. So he says, how is it you're not still living even though you're separated from me? And they say, your Namamritam and your Kathamritam keeps our prana here. That is the Amrita, the nectar of your stories and the nectar of your names, keeps us here. It traps the prana, your name. It does not allow it to leave. The name is the Mahaprana. It keeps feeding our prana. And his Nama is the vibration of Pranava. So when you talk about dana, you talk about vastra danam. I give clothes to somebody, I clothe someone, or annadanam. I'm giving food. Why is annadanam so powerful? The best they say because only when you give people food to eat, at some point they'll say enough, enough, I'm full. With everything else, they are never satisfied. But much beyond this is jnana dana, the dana that God gives us of jnana, of knowing the real truth, what the real truth is. So they say, we have given up every dimension for you, hey Dayamurte, hey Giridhari, we don't have any more endurance to bear this separation. So when they say that, the meeting of the Jivatma and Paramatma happens because even everything goes up, and that is called Mahayoga or Maharas. So when Buddha attained nirvana or merging under the tree, um, under the people tree, then Buddha had Gautama, Siddhartha became Buddha, and he had a realization of the truth, and he had a nirvana liberation. But when he leaves his body, they call it parinirvana, the greater nirvana. When the Islam, people of the new religion, Islam, at the time it was founded, get a great victory over people who did not believe in the Supreme Soul, the earlier people. They come and say, we've won the jihad, the war. And Muhammad tells them, this was the lesser jihad, now comes the greater jihad. What is the greater jihad? Saying, we have won. There is no we here. He, the Supreme, has made things happen. You are not at all responsible for it. And to understand that and struggle to get there is the way of bhakti. So, love is antaranga. You love something or somebody, it's a very deep silence. You don't have to go on proclaiming and exclaiming it at every point. It's very, very personal to you. Lust is bahiranga. Lust wants to enjoy. Love wants to merge or serve. So love goes through anguish at what it perceives as sadhana. This extraordinary sadhana was Krishna's dhanam to the gopis because it helped them to attain Maharas or Mahayoga. So Sri Shukha Brahman, who repeated the Bhagavatam, was a Brahmanishta, always in that state of consciousness. Maha Paramahamsa Jnanam or Maha Paramahamsa Jnani he was. And the gopis, he says, that is because the gopis, Panchabhuta Sharira was in their homes. What they experienced, the heights of Upasana and merging with the Supreme Sayujya was in their Sukshma Sharira. So, what is it?
Swamiji, we are at
Just past.
7:40.
Okay. We have another 10, 15 minutes, right?
Yes.
Because I ask you this because I'm hopeless in numbers and maths.
No worries.
So,
Yeah. We have time.
so now then they will tell you that you worship Radha, his potency, and she will take you to Krishna. That is why in Vrajabhumi, where she was living, people will say Radhe, Radhe much more than Krishna, Krishna, because she is the presiding deity of prana. Radha is life force. She was his life force, as Durga is the presiding deity of the buddhi, the discrimination, and moving towards that. Both are inner potencies of the Supreme. From these two, Mula Prakriti has originated the world. These two are the Mula Prakritis. The entire universes of manifestation um, were originated from Radha and Durga. And this was an incorporeal voice. How did they know? An incorporeal voice, that is an Akasha voice, that was a vibration, was heard in the psychic level. This happens in the psychic level of Mula Prakriti or manifestation. And who receives that vibration first? It is Krishna who receives that vibration first. He gives it to Vishnu. Vishnu gives it to Brahma. Brahma gives it to Virat, the everything, the totality. Virata gives it to Dharma, the law, the energy that sustains and maintains everything. And Dharma gives it to Narayana. So, where did Krishna receive this mantra and what was it? In the Rasa Mandalam in Goloka, where he was dancing with them, he received this mantra, Om Shri Radhaye Swaha, the six-lettered mantra of Radha. And to that you add Hrim, the Bija mantra, Om Hrim Shri Radhaye Swaha. That is what they say. Narayana constantly repeats the name of Radha mantra. Therefore, he is the Rishi of that mantra. Now, when I say Narayana, I'm not talking of Narayana, sir. I'm talking of the Parabrahman Narayana, because so many people have got into that thing. The Rishi of that mantra is Narayana, the Radha mantra. Gayatri is the Chandas, because that is the first creative force. Om is the Bija, Bhuvaneshwari is the Shakti. So when you have a dhyanam on Radha, you see a 12-year-old girl visualized with a face like a full moon, body shining like 10 million moons, eyes like a lotus, red lips smiling, flowers in her hair, seated in the center of Rasa Mandalam, holding the Abhaya and Varada mudras. That is telling you, be fearless. I'm there. I'm your mother. I've taken care. I'm taking care. No matter what happens, have faith in me. And Vara, she gives you that strength and quality to move through these various dimensions of consciousness. And then you then invoke her. You can invoke her even on a Shaligrama, on a Yantra, on a Kalasham. It's an 8-petal lotus. And you can do the regular puja. You offer to wash her hands, to wash her feet, give her 3 madhuram, that is 3 sweets put together, sugar, ghee, and milk. And the yantra is the bathing place of the Devi. You give her sandal paste, clothes, sandal paste, ornaments, flower garlands. And where is this lotus in which she sits? She sits within your heart. The entrance to the yantra itself, on 4 sides, you'll see like 4 gates. These are the Dikpalas. And here you worship Devi's weapons. Why do you worship? Because it is using those weapons that she is helping you to reach her. And then you say the Sahasranama of Radha. Her birthday comes on Kartik month, Purnima day. This Radha, this Adi Shakti, Ahlada Shakti of Krishna, was born, incarnated in Goloka as the daughter of Rishabhanu. So then there is a Stotra, Radha Stotra also. When you say, O thou highest duty dweller in Rasamandalam, I bow to you, you are directing the Rasamandalam, you're dearer to Krishna than his own life. That is why she's called this Prana Shakti, Pranasya Pranaha. I bow to you, mother of three lokas, ocean of mercy. Brahma, Vishnu, and other devatas bow before your lotus feet. You are Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom and knowledge. Savitri, the goddess of awakening of the creative source. Shankari, Shankara means the peaceful one. His consort Ganga, Padmavati, Shashti, Mangala Chandika. These are her names. Manasa, Tulasi, Durga, Bhagavati, Lakshmi. You are Mula Prakriti, you are the ocean of mercy. I do namaskar, pranams to you. Be merciful and save us from the samsara sagara, or the world of material life, which is within us. It's not outside. It is our perception, our temptation that takes us there, and we are praying to her to take us to the Supreme Soul, because she is the Guru Rupini. She is the Guru who takes us, like she took Shuka as a parrot and said, Vatsa Krishnam Vada. She said, say Krishna, don't say Radhe Radhe. And she gives it to Krishna and she says, yeah, this is my favorite. So Krishna knows that who is her favorite has to be taken care of. So they say, if you say this Radha Stotra 3 times a day, all your desires will be fulfilled. You will not want anything else at all. So we'll go more into it tomorrow. The final, the end of it all, and see how it ends, because they still have a question to ask at the end of it all. And we'll come to that tomorrow. So closing your eyes. We have another 10 minutes. Close your eyes, sitting still and steady. Bend your neck a little so that your eyes are perpendicular with the ground. Take your attention to your heart area. And at the level of your heart, visualize this most charming and beautiful girl who is 16 years old. She becomes 12 years old with full moon, with a moon-like face, shining. You can hardly see her form, but looking through the eyes of your soul, you will see her form. She's smiling at you. She is in the center of people who are dancing with great happiness around her. And she is, at her glance, she is telling you that I am here to protect you. No harm will come to you at all. You are my beloved. And she is giving you the strength and the siddhis that will help you on your journey, not for you to use it for your own aggrandizement. You see the form of all the gopis around. They have all become Krishna, and she alone, Radha, is there. When you see her and yourself, the Shakti of Krishna and the consciousness, the Dvaita Bhava is there. You know that I am separate and the power of Krishna is separate, Radha. That is the origin of the love, prema. This is the end of prema. When you open your eyes later, you'll see that this is truly what is called yoga, when the Atma and Paramatma merge. And this is the fruit of Srimad Bhagavatam. Even if you keep the Bhagavatam in your house, it is very sacred and auspicious. If you read it, still more. And he who can defeat desire can defeat time also. When Krishna plays the flute, it is heard by the cows, the birds, the river, the grass. But only those that are yearning to be pulled into him. In other words, he pulls them and only they heard it. The flute sound is always there. We don't hear it, that's all. And that is why he says, Swagatam he Mahabhaga, welcome, O Mahabhagas. Because who is a Mahabhaga? One who struggles and weeps, not able to reach, only the flute is heard. And this is when he tests the love of the devotee. Do you have the faith, the dedication, and the action to drive out darkness and move towards the light? The Sharira has, the physical gross body has a husband, Pita, Putra, father, son, all these relationships. But when you see the divinity in your husband, in your child, in your enemy, in your father, in the whole universe, then the Gopikas come to your aid, and they, being Amshas of Krishna, they are his own inherent potency. They help you to reach there. So they say it doesn't matter, let your body be anywhere, but keep your mind with Krishna and go back home. Now he says, and they go back home because now they are not worried, because he is with them inside. And that is why when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, his life in Vrindavan is over and he goes back to Mathura. He does not come back to see what is happening in Vrindavan. And when he sends Uddhava, his very close friend to whom he teaches the Uddhava Gita, when he sends Uddhava to go and see the Gopikas, he said, because Uddhava thought he was the person who loved Krishna the most. Krishna just says, go to the Gopikas and tell them that I still think of them. So Uddhava goes there and he meets these young girls who are now grown up also. And then he tells them, Krishna sent a message and they're all beaming. And he says, he knows how anguished you'll be because he's separated from you. And the Gopikas tell him, we don't understand what you're saying because he's never been separated from us. He's always with us and we are always happy because he's always with us. So this is what we have to pray to the Supreme Soul to help us stay at his feet through all the ups and downs of life, and to hold on to his feet, because where he walks is sacred, and when he walks and you're holding on to his feet, then that he takes you into sacred land. And who brings you to his feet? It is none other than the Guru Rupini, the mother who comes as your Guru, whoever that Guru is. That is why Murari Bapu used to say, Guru Purnima means Guru is the Purna Ma, complete mother. So we'll stop here today and we'll go on to the next one tomorrow. Hari Om Tat Sat. Somebody did send me another dance by the same two girls who danced yesterday. If Shivani has it and can access it, You can put it on now. Otherwise, we'll just sit in silence for a few minutes, dwelling on the Raas Leela in these terms, not as something which is excitement filled and sensually interesting, but as something that has touched your soul and which is a part of your soul. Let us pray to the divine that he makes us gopis. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. We will finish here today. Let auspiciousness, let the Gopikas, let Radha Devi and let Krishna walk with you through all that you do today. Offer everything to him. Krishna Arpanamastu.